Look at this lovely sandwich. Now, if you've been doing leadership or management for a while, then you may have come across this little factoid that giving feedback is kind of like a sandwich, in that there are three parts to feedback. There's two pieces of bread here and there's the meat in the middle. So when you're giving feedback to a person, what you need to do is give them some bread, that's say something nice. Then you get to the meat, which is the problem you want to bring up. And then you kind of finish it with another little piece of bread here. And so it became this predictable formula. Say something nice, but then the meat, and then something nice again. Now, this sandwich is delicious. I'm going to enjoy it for lunch. But when it comes to feedback, ditch the sandwich. Today, we're going to focus on a much better way of giving feedback. In a recent survey, 69% of people said that they would work harder for their employer if they got better feedback. Imagine that. That's mind-blowing. That tells us there's a crisis in the workplace. 70%, almost 70% of people are not getting feedback. Let's change that. And today, let's explore how feedback really is only two options. And those two options I want to explore in today's episode. When it comes to giving feedback, I think it's really important to ask, why are we giving feedback in the first place? What's it all about? It's such a fundamental question. And when it comes to feedback, I think we have two distinct occasions when feedback should be given. And apart from those, there really isn't any other way of giving feedback. The first of those is appreciative feedback. That's feedback we give when we observe something that we are liking that the person does and that we want to make a comment or give them feedback on that. The second is developmental feedback. That's feedback where we observe once again what a person's doing, and this time we want to make a comment because we're looking for some form of change of behavior. So appreciative and developmental, they're really the only two times we need to give feedback. Now, notice what's not there. Constructive criticism. Such a horrible term. When people hear the term constructive criticism, you know what they hear? That's right, they hear the word criticism. And all of a sudden they become defensive. They're waiting for it. What are you going to say? So when we look at feedback as a process, feedback's really about an ongoing conversation. And that's how I'd like to frame the feedback as we talk about those two different styles of feedback. Because in the old days, it used to be that feedback, if you were lucky, was given once a year. Person was called in. I remember talking to a client of mine a few weeks ago. He said, when I was a younger manager, I used to be called in once a year. The person would look at me, my manager, and say to me, "You're doing a great job, keep it up." That was it. Well, that just doesn't work anymore. Our younger generation, and in fact, all employees, need better feedback. If we want people to perform at a higher level, then we have to perform a little bit better at the feedback we're given. So let's explore appreciative feedback, let's explore developmental feedback and how we give it. Okay, I want you to do a little experiment with me. I want you to close your eyes. That is, of course, unless you're driving. If you're driving, keep them open. But I want you now to think about someone talking to you. And I want you to think of them criticizing you, bringing up something that you're doing that is wrong. I want you to think about, how does that feel in your body? What's happening in your body as you think about that? Okay, now let's do the opposite. I want you now to bring to mind someone who is praising you, someone who's telling you about something you've done right, someone who's telling you that something you did made a difference. How does that feel in your body? If you're like most people, when we feel criticism, when we feel judged, then what happens within us is a stress hormone, cortisol, is excreted all throughout the body. And the problem with cortisol is this: it lasts a long time. It goes on all day. In fact, sometimes we even bring it home with us. You know what I mean? Those days when something happens at work and you go home and all of a sudden you don't know why, but you're in this mood. That's that cortisol which is still racing throughout your body. However, when we feel good, when we're praised, there's another hormone that's excreted called oxytocin, and oxytocin bonds us together. We feel good, we feel connected. Problem is that does not last as long. And therein, chemically, is the problem. We hear a lot more criticism than we do appreciation in the workplace. And because we hear a lot more criticism than appreciation, all that energy, all that cortisol is racing through our bodies each and every day. We need to change the equation. What we know from research is pretty clear that teams that perform at the highest level hear 5 to 6 times more appreciative feedback than they receive critical feedback. 5 to 6 times. I wonder what our ratio is. Wonder what your ratio is in the workplace. Now, when it comes to appreciative feedback, what's really important is that it is genuine. We're not talking about faking it here. And in fact, when it comes to feedback, please do not go down the route of fake it till you make it, because faking it till you make it does not work when it comes to feedback. It really must be genuine. It must be based on observation. So what is it we want to say? Hey, you know what? I noticed in today's meeting that your contributions were just excellent. You really asked some great questions. You got us to think in a different way. Hey, I really want to thank you for stepping up and taking care of that. You know, I noticed a few days ago that you'd done that. I never asked you to do that, but I just appreciate you taking the initiative. Or thank you for helping out Sandra, the new employee. I know that she had a few difficulties and you really stepped in, you gave the time, and now she's really up to speed. I appreciate that. You know, appreciative feedback is thanking, yes, things that are done well, but more than that, it's really saying to the person, I notice. I notice you. I notice what you're doing. I notice the behaviors in the workplace and how they contribute to the overall effectiveness of the workplace. And the second form of feedback is developmental feedback. And I like to call this feedback forward feedback. Because really what we're doing is we're creating a space where we can imagine if we were to do this task again, what would be like. So here's how it normally flows. We make an objective observation about a behavior that we've seen, and then we go into a questioning about next time, how would we do that? Next time, how would we do that differently? Now, we've done something really interesting there. When a person hears some feedback, perhaps about something that they didn't get quite right, sometimes we go into this mental gymnastics and we ask ourselves, will there be a next time? Oh, I've done horrible. And we kind of remain on what we've done wrong. But when we're able to flip that conversation, we're able to move that conversation to a next time. We create this future space where now we're allowed to explore how that behavior might look like, what that change might look like in the future. It's a wonderfully creative space. And it's a space that helps people imagine what is possible. Because if we're going to develop, if we're going to grow, then we have to be able to have that energy, that mindset that we can change. We have to have this growth mindset instead of this fixed mindset. Because if we stay in the place of just spending time with what we've done wrong, it becomes very fixed. Whenever we spend a space where, well, next time, this is what I could do. I could try this or I could try that. We become much more into a growth mindset. And that's exactly what we're looking for. That's what motivates. That's what excites. So the next time you have a development conversation where you want to give feedback, where perhaps behaviors that you're seeing you want to change, try that change of language. Here's what I observed. Let's talk a little bit about that. Let's get a little bit of feedback, but then let's move to the question next time. What would you do differently? Next time, what's the result you want to see? And if that's the result you want to see, then how might you get there? It's a whole different conversation. So let's keep the sandwiches for lunch, not for feedback. And I promise you that if you try and focus on those two areas, if you focus on appreciative feedback, if you focus on developmental feedback, it will begin to transform some of the conversations you're having. And if you've really enjoyed this video, I invite you to explore the next video, which looks at how do we motivate other employees.